Hello, how you guys doing? James here. I hope you're having a good evening, good weekend. Well, I want to show you something with this is a topic of religion. Particularly, um, I'm not a Muslim, but this is what's going on in the Muslim community and over in Europe, and it's something they're talking about leaving, particularly France, and well, it's
Alright, folks, this is Harris Sultan. One of the biggest conundrums of multiculturalism is how to deal with those people who leave their home countries behind and move to Western nations, yet somehow are always ungrateful and not even happy to be there. I mean, slogans like love the country you live in or live in the country you love, or if you don't like it here, then go back, have become really, really popular. But still, for some reason, these people are having this cognitive dissonance where they've left their home country behind for whatever reason and moved to Western countries that have given them amazing lifestyles, amazing opportunities, lifted their quality of life, but still they try to turn it into the country that they left behind. It's so counterintuitive. It doesn't make any sense. And it's happening all across the board in every single Western country. We've seen them in Britain, like this guy, and it's only one tiny example of hundreds of these videos that I've already played to you. Look at this guy.
Of Birmingham will not tolerate the disrespect of our Prophet, peace be upon him, and there will be outcomes from your actions. You will have repercussions for your actions. We have been trained from birth that we must defend the honor of our Prophet, and we will lay our life on the line.
This is a very primitive, barbaric, Pakistani behavior. You wouldn't expect someone who was born and raised in England to behave like this. This problem of Islamic extremism, religious extremism, is not just confined to British Muslims. Look at this Australian Muslim threatening an Australian woman that he will kill her if she insults his prophet. Have a listen.
Jump on the treadmill. I'm just happy you on my panel of paper and say what these people act like. That's all. Go ahead.
Well done, lady. You've actually exposed him. Look at him. Look at him. He's telling her that she needs to jump on a treadmill. Bro, look at this face. This is a hybrid human. Look at him. Just that's a big.
You insult my prophet, and you insult my prophet, you insult my prophet, you are executed. You get this when you execute the prophet.
Well, when you execute the prophet, you mean when you insult the prophet? What a dumb cousin marriages.
Take that, and I apologize for that. You're disgracing the honor of our prophet.
So, I don't know, he sounds Arab, maybe Lebanese, I don't know, he looks semi. So, the West has imported these people in their millions, and remigration is the only solution. These people are not fit to be living in the West. And not only do they bring all types of social problems to the West, I'm sorry to say this, they actually make it really ugly as well. Look at this. Just the mere aesthetics of your cities go down the drain. Look at them. Just look at them. What is this? Just ugly. This is not England. I know most of you white people would probably never say that in front of the world because you might say, oh, it sounds a bit racist. But don't worry, I'll do it for you. I have brown privilege that I will use to its maximum. Look at this. Look at these clothes. What are they wearing? It's just so hideous. It's absolutely disgusting. Just like you can make fun of these people. Look at them. Look at this. Look how hideous this is. Look at this parade. Look at them. They're hideous. They're all hideous. I shouldn't go full screen on this because hideous. They're all hideous. I don't think I can show most of it. It's not like they are Victoria's Secret models. In that case, I would say, okay, you know what? I don't mind this nude protest, but look at them. Absolutely freaking hideous. And I'm sure you would have no problem in calling them out because they're all mostly white. Isn't it amazing that you as a white person can speak about the terrible aesthetics of your own community, but if you did the same for another cultural group, you will suddenly become racist. That's what we call brown privilege, which I have. I'm on your side, so don't worry, I'll do the dirty work for you. Anyway, but this video is not about this. We've already seen that. I've shown you so many examples of these people uglifying these once beautiful cities. But let's just go back to the original point that I made at the start of the video. Wouldn't it be amazing if all these people who live in the West, yet they are unhappy and want to change it to Afghanistan, Pakistan, or whatever country they came from, just packed up their bags and went back to the country they actually like? Guess what? This concept of remigration is actually not that difficult to achieve. Before I play you the main video, have a listen to this Muslim who is saying that British Muslims should leave Britain because Britain is becoming insufferable for Muslims to live.
For a Muslim, you have no other option but to leave the UK and move to a Muslim country now, because your sisters, your mother, your wife, she isn't safe when she's going outside. Like if your mother, your sister, your wife is wearing the hijab, she wears the niqab, she wears abaya, there is a risk she will get attacked. You can't be with her always.
I haven't heard of a single physical attack on a Muslim woman because of her abaya or burqa or niqab. Yes, I have seen some videos where some idiots are making derogatory remarks towards Muslim women, which is obviously condemnable and atrocious and should never happen, and no one should ever condone it, but that's what I've seen. What he's saying is barely true. But hey, if you feel that way, then I think Muslims should listen to this guy.
And imagine feeling uncomfortable every single time someone leaves the house. Like, you cannot live comfortably knowing your family isn't safe. 5 years ago, it was like, come on, you should try to leave the UK, make hijrah, Muslim lands. 3 years ago, you should try. Now, it's like, you need to. It's so amazing that he has practically shown you in the last 5 years how things have become worse and worse. And only Allah knows how bad it's actually going to become. Like, you guys need to start planning for your get out.
I actually agree with him. It is going to get bad for Muslims in the West. I genuinely believe in that. It's not just because I want that to happen. Look, I don't want Britain to become Islamistan. I just don't want it. I don't think that Islam should gain any more influence in the West than it already has. Even now, it has too much influence. I just don't want it. Call that whatever you want. I don't care. There's nothing wrong with that. Islam does not belong in the West. Islam is not compatible with the West. Have a look at my videos. 137,000 British-born Muslim girls have gone through FGM. This is a problem that belongs exclusively to Islam. 300 Muslim girls have been honor killed. 300, all Muslims. Again, another problem that belongs exclusively to Islam. Tens of thousands of forced marriages, acid attacks. A big chunk of these problems belong only to Islam. A huge percentage, and I'm talking about 90% of these crimes, happen to Muslims. These values are not compatible with the West. I'm sorry. In the West, people like to wear short clothes, gamble, drink, call it degeneracy or whatever you want to call it, but it's none of your business. The Westerners are okay with that. We don't want your primitive, barbaric, backward, medieval practices here in the West. Whether that's Australia or Britain or Canada, we don't want that here. No other culture feels as entitled as Muslims do. Yes, the Chinese have their Chinese New Year, Hindus have Diwali and Holi, whatnot. They also come under extreme criticism, but at the same time, they're not mowing people down with their cars. We're not putting safety bollards because of aggressive Hindus or aggressive Buddhists. We're not having Hindu or Buddhist terrorist attacks in Australia or Britain. Most of the problems that we experience in multiculturalism come from one particular culture. So what do we do with that? Now let me play you this main video. What this guy is saying is actually already happening in France. Nearly 40,000 French Muslims have already left France. 40,000, I was shocked when I heard this number. So let me play you this video. So you also believe that there is some light at the end of the tunnel. We might be able to save Britain.
An important researcher, a few actually French researchers, published a book a year ago, and they documented that phenomenon in which, according to which 10,000 families, at least 10,000 families, Muslim families, left the country as a result of the toxic Islamophobic atmosphere in the entire country. So we're talking about families, so it means at least 30, 40,000 people leaving because they can't find a job because they're wearing hijab, or they can't find a job because they're wearing a beard, or if it's not necessarily related to their professional activities, just because they want to make sure that their children are going to grow up as Muslims, and as such they have to leave the country in order to find another space in which educational institutions are not operating against their system of beliefs.
I do have to stop and interrupt because that's the whole point of commentary, because I have to make these points, because I know some of you actually get upset with me for interrupting too much. So you see what is making these people voluntarily leave France? Simple things like banning the burqa. It's not compatible with French values. Sorry, but not sorry. We don't want to look at ninja warriors thinking that a woman, a living, breathing woman, is subjected to wear bin bags in a 35-degree hot day. It's not compatible with any Western country's values. So we're not going to tolerate it, and we're not going to accommodate it. If you don't like it, you can go. So we don't have to deal with it. Yes, that's hardly a comfort for that woman who, instead of leaving her husband, who's making her wear this bin bag or her religion, sorry, if you can't adapt to French values, then you have to go. So what should Anglo countries do? Ban the burqa. Ban halal food. We do not want to torture animals. Every study shows that the way Muslims slaughter animals is barbaric, is inhumane, it's cruelty, it's torture for those animals, especially complex animals like cows. Poor cows suffer for up to 3 minutes when they slice their necks in the Islamic way. So that's what we need to do in Britain as well. And Britain is the test case. Britain is the mother of all of our Anglo countries, and it's a test case, it's the battleground. So Britain needs to do this.
Just tell me, what is it like to be a Muslim in France?
I think the best way to understand the Muslim experience in France is to quickly go through the pieces of legislation and the policies that are applied here. First of all, hijab is completely banned from any public school, and it's been the case since 2004. Niqab is totally banned from public square. You just can't wear it. Not just in public schools, but actually even outside, anywhere in the public space.
That's actually true. As bad as France is, like I've seen some terrible non-French people doing terrible things in the streets of Paris, which is filthy and ugly. I don't recall ever seeing a Muslim woman in the niqab, the full face covering where you can't see anything, you can just see the eyes. I don't think I ever saw that. As hideous as Paris was, there was one less hideous thing in Paris, which was the niqab.
Niqab is completely banned. On top of that, we are facing a policy entitled systematic obstruction, which aims at essentially subduing the entire Muslim civil society. What are we concretely talking about? At least 1,000 Muslim organizations were closed down by the state since February 2018.
1,000 Muslim organizations. You know what these Muslim organizations are? Do you know what kind of conversations they are having in those Muslim organizations? Let me show you. See, that's why these interruptions are important, to give you better context. This is the kind of conversations they are having in these organizations.
Prophet ﷺ said, do not befriend anyone except a good believer, and do not share your food with anyone except a pious person. So we don't have this wala and this friendship with kuffar. We don't hang out with kuffar. Let's go down and play some pool bob. Let's play some Xbox together. You're my friend. There's no wala with the kuffar. I remember.
We hate the kuffar, basically. So this guy is an imam, but he's not sitting in a mosque. He's sitting in his office. He runs a Muslim advocacy organization in Britain. So those are the...
Okay, wow. I just wanted... That's really an enlightening thing. But let's go to this. So we're going to go to what these gentlemen said about the prophet. The one that he was saying that we must protect our prophet. And let's see what the prophet had. What he was really about. Prophet Muhammad. Sorry about that.
Well, do you know what? One thing I do have a particular concern about is the rate of conversions. I don't know the actual percentage, but I know that there are a lot of people going in based on my contacts in prison who have told me that loads of people go into prison and they get converted. You know, in terms of what Tommy Robson's talking about, how does that impact the black community who are obviously now being converted to a faith that, you know, that what I see is not actually really accepting them. Because I'm hearing all the different stories from Muslims as well, black Muslims saying that they go into they're in the mosque and some people don't even pray them.
Most black people don't even understand that Muhammad was a white-skinned Arab man who owned and traded black people as his slaves. That sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I didn't know he was white.
He's described as a white-skinned Arab.
In what book are you talking about?
In the Hadiths of Islam.
I would look at that.
In the Hadiths of Islam.
Okay.
Another thing is that a lot of people don't understand, because I always said people can only bamboozle you if you're ignorant. Ignorant doesn't mean that you're stupid, it just means that you lack knowledge of something. Most people lack knowledge of Islam in the West, right? When you read Islam or you understand Islam, Islam is not just the Quran. A lot of people think Islam is the Quran. Islam is the Quran and the Sunnah.
Yeah.
The Quran and the Sunnah.
Keep referring to that, yeah.
Yeah, the Sunnah is the Hadith books. They're the ways, the teachings, and the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad. So when they pray 5 times a day, stuff like that, everyone knows Muslims pray 5 times a day. You can't find it in the Quran. It's part of the Sunnah. So when people say, oh, I'm a Muslim, it's like, okay, cool, do you follow Quran and Sunnah? And when a Muslim says to you, oh, and you say something to them and they say, oh, can you find it in the Quran? And you might say with your ignorance, actually, I don't think it is in the Quran. Where did I hear that? They rely on that because you're ignorant, because you don't know their religion, right? But they don't know that it's from the
It's like the Bible back in the day was Latin, written in Latin, right?
Right. You don't know that things come from the Sunnah also. So this is the thing, like Muhammad was a white-skinned Arab man who both owned and traded black people as his slaves. So when black people are joining and following a man, if we go back to George Floyd, do you remember the statue of Edward Colson that was destroyed here and was thrown in a river? Do you remember that?
Yes, oh yeah.
And people asked, why did you do that? And they said, oh, he was a white guy. He traded black people as slaves and owned them. I said, oh, so when are we okay with white men trading and owning black people as their slaves now? What, only when it comes to Islam?
Ripped to the ground, just seconds. This was an historic moment. The statue to this 17th century slave trader has stood for more than 120 years. It now lies at the bottom of the city's harbour.
Why would I walk past that every day, knowing the history of it? That literally makes me feel like I don't matter. So that says Black Lives Matter.
I guess I was supposed to look at it as if he was some sort of hero, someone that was worthy of being immortalized. And I think that's actually, it sent a very, very strong message of white supremacy.
So I think it's difficult to know whether this is the start of something incredible. I mean, the statue being knocked down definitely is, but I think so much more needs to be done.
Do you know what I'm saying? But this is what I'm trying to say. It's the hypocrisy. People don't understand what they're talking about a lot of the time. If you don't like white men that own and trade black people as slaves, you might want to look into Islam.
Muhammad's companions went out of their way to remind us how white he was. They said that he was white with an elegant face. They referred to him as this white man and drew attention to his white complexion. They wanted us to know about the whiteness of his shins, and the whiteness of his thigh, and the whiteness of his leg, and the whiteness of his stomach, and the whiteness of his forearms, and the whiteness of his cheeks, and the whiteness of his armpits. Muhammad's companions also went out of their way to remind us how black his slaves were. Hadith after hadith after hadith, Muhammad bought, owned, sold, and traded black African slaves. The Muslim sources even say that trading slaves was equivalent to trading animals. So, if race is really irrelevant in Islam, why the endless reminders of how white Muhammad was and how black his slaves were? Why were Muhammad's companions so obsessed with whiteness and blackness?
Well, I've heard criticism of black people, because I've got on TikTok a lot, and there's so much stuff. You go through the comments, and there's comments of what some of the people, the Muslim community will be saying, I'm assuming it's someone from the Muslim community, will say, well, you follow a white Jesus.
Right.
But you're telling me now that Muhammad was actually...
I'm not telling you. They are telling you. And this is what I need to get across.
Yeah,
because
of course.
a lot of people say, he said this. I'm like, I didn't write your hadith books. What are you upset with me for? If it wasn't there, I wouldn't be able to say it. Because what I do, I always tell you the same thing. Fact check, right? Don't believe me. I would prefer people to not believe me. I would prefer people to say, oh, you know what, that guy's talking absolute nonsense. Muhammad wasn't a white man. And I'll be like, all right, cool, go and look for it. Wow. And then you'll find it. Do you know what it is? I'm going to superimpose it on the screen. Here. I'm going to show it and I superimpose it when it was both white and he both traded black people. He traded them 2 for 1.
Well, yeah, no, I've read that.
He traded them 2 for 1. And then they will say, oh, Muhammad, he had a last sermon and he said that everyone's equal and no black is more equal than a white. But in his life, did he live that? Because we can say anything. I can say, oh, you know what? Treat people as you wish to be treated. But in my life, I'm slapping grannies at 12 o'clock each day. But it's like, what are you doing?
Was there any form of revision, or forget revision, was there any change in his personality? Sometimes people are one way when they start off a particular faith or an idea, but then they start to maybe they reshape things, they change things. So maybe sometimes early on in the book he's presented as this, and maybe later on he's presented.
They have abrogation in Islam.
Wow. But yeah, I've heard that before about Muhammad. And it's just that some of his writings and people that were part of the Muslim community that left and what they were taught all their life, and they was confirming out everything this man was saying. And it's just that and you can tell by the men that they really hold this man like a messiah figure, to the point that they have, some of these people have took things out of the hadith in the Quran, like ISIS and people like Al-Qaeda and all these other people, and they really literally took it to the max, to the point that they want to act out on other people. Even that one group over in Nigeria is out there, going at Christians and everything. It's crazy, man. Check this out.
Hey guys, my name is Modi and you are welcome to Modi Speaks. So when I talk about the religion of problem, okay, I'm talking about it because it is indeed the religion of problem. Anything it touches turns to decay. Any country it radically possesses depreciates immediately. And any human who follows its ways becomes dangerous both to themselves, to their loved ones, and to their society at large. Now I want to shine a light on what is happening in Somalia today. I know Ilhan Omar and Mohammed Fateh don't want to talk about this. They don't want you to know about this evil going on in their native country. They don't. But I am here to expose the evil. Now, this evil is not just happening in the 99.9% Muslim populated Somalia. It is happening all over Africa, the Middle East, and other parts of the world where the religion of cancer has deeply taken root. This evil I'm going to be exposing in this video is even happening in the northern part of my country, Nigeria. The northern part, which has a Muslim majority, is deeply ridden with this particular evil. Now, what am I talking about? Well, recently, the Somalian government passed a bill to prohibit the marriage of children under the age of 18 after years and years of pressure from the United Nations and other Western countries, okay? The Somalian government finally caved in and decided to introduce a bill that would criminalize the marriage of children and also give Somalian citizens the right to freedom of religion. But something happened. something happened. Barely 24 hours after the introduction of this bill, the Somalian people lost their minds, okay? They could not comprehend the idea of criminalizing 80-year-old men from marrying 9-year-old children. It was a taboo for the government to say that grandpas should not have any intercourse with minors who are not even old enough to be their great-granddaughters. So they took to the streets in protest, demanding that the bill should be rejected and overthrown. And to my greatest lack of surprise, it was overthrown. So this bill that would have brought about the emancipation of the Somalian girl child in Somalia was decisively crushed by the Somalian people. Because of course, Somalia is 99.9% Muslim and they are ruled by Sharia law. And their Sharia law says that it is their man's right to have intercourse with children once they are mature. Mature children. What an oxymoron. Anyway, let's hear from the Somalians themselves.
talay Soomaaliya waxay u ahayd maalin mugdiya maalin madow ah shalay baarlamaanka wuxuu u soo saaray ama uu go'aan ku gaaray wax la aqbali kar ma aha annaga muslim baan nahay boqol muslim baan nahay Soomaali ilaahay laga cabsado arintan arinka hortag u baahan waaye aabay culimadeena Soomaaliyeed aabay culimadeena Soomaaliyeed waarisal anbiyaa baatihiin idinka hadal maqalnaa maxaa dhacay maxaa loogu aamusan yahay arintan aaway sheekh Sumow aaway ma noolamiya aaway sheekh Shaakir ma noolamiya waraabay culimadeena ilaahay ka cabsan war ilaahay ka cabsan ilaahay u laabano sheekh Maxamed Maalin Abshir aaway sheekh Nur Ali Jimcaale aaway war ilaahay ka cabsan sheekh Cabdirasaaq Ashari aaway war ilaahay ka cabsan war ilaahay ka cabsan arintan arin la aqbali karma dadkan wana rogayaan ilaahay ka cabsan war ilaahay ka cabsan arimahan laga hortago arimahan la aqbali karma 18 sano gaalay qoran tahay caruurtooda ku qaangaaraan annaga inaan ku raacno ma aha nabiga sallallahu alayhi wasallam khalif al mushrikiin buu nafaray inaan mushrikiinta khilaafnana la faray ilaahay ka cabsan war ilaahay ka cabsan war ilaahay ka cabsan
This
Oops. Oh, hold on. This is deep. You know, what can you say about this? I mean, wow. You know, and it's an strange thing about it is they, you know, being the West in America, you know, even though it's against the law, but we have an organization probably would protect something like this called ACLU. Yeah, they would do that, and because here in the United States, the Somalis aren't here. I'm in one of the secondary cities that the Somalians are, and so this goes on in their culture. That's really wow. I mean, that's just, man, I don't understand. What would it 80-something? You gotta go to a 9-year-old child or a child under 18. You can't deal with a 19, 20-something-year-old woman. A woman, a young woman. You have to go and get a child. You know, and guess what? When you look, guess who did this? That had a sort of intimate, close relationship with Muhammad did this with, and it was there's writings of a girl that in the Muslim, these people that pointed out in her writing, it's out there online that she wrote a letter. You know, it seems pretty real and authentic that what her life was like as a young girl with their prophet Muhammad. And he was the first one to start. He met her at 5, And then I think he consummated the relationship at 9. It was something like that. Unless he had a wife. He had another woman, and like I said, this when you read, as I researched and I read about this, I said something. I knew something wasn't wrong when when he first received this revelation that when he got up to the cave, and probably if you ever read about the legend when the Prophet Muhammad goes up to the cave and he sees this being that they claim is an angel, and trying to tell him to recite. And I mentioned this in the video. No angel that come from the heaven where the Father is to Christ will never have you to recite something. When an angel of the Lord comes down, he's come to give you a message. And first, all the prophets in the Torah to the Bible, when they would see an angel, no matter it was Daniel, no matter, it was just to bring a message like, your prayer has been received, or Jacob, saw the angel. Abraham, Lot. I have never heard an angel, and it was always done out in the open in the Bible. They never had to go to some cave, and all of a sudden this being showing up. That was the kind of a flag right there. Because every time when you look at the people that were in the Bible, it wasn't open. They were out in the field. They were laying up on a tree, and the angel of the Lord would come to them. Jacob wrestled with an angel. And the story about Jacob where he wouldn't let the angel go until he changed his name, and a story where the angel had to hit him in the hip just to let him go. So finally he said, "Until you bless me, I'm not going to let you go." But and his name was Israel. That's the story. But if you look at Daniel, I have never men who move these are men who move prophetically, and there are other ones that when they have encounter with the Father's messengers, everything that came from heaven through the messengers that the Father sent was never to recite another scripture, was never to recite another doctrine. No matter it was, even Mary, who was receiving the Messiah, and say, let her know that she was going to be, Mary, that was Gabriel that let her know that you're going to bring forth a creator, a great mess, that he's going to redeem the whole world. And it's a good news, a good message. And so Mary, story, and they know about Mary too, but not in the thing how they do it. But when they all they can say that, what is probably told among them about Jesus being a prophet. But Yeshua is more than a prophet. Yeshua was the word. And when you're a prophet of Yeshua, if he sends a message, everything is going to come behind the message. There were signs, there were wonders, and there was things that still come into play. When I read the story about Prophet Muhammad, I don't see anything that he said from his story that ever come to pass. How is he a prophet when a prophet is supposed to be the forerunner what is to come? That's something that I had to kind of, because the prophets, Daniel, the prophet, even the great men, Daniel, the Jeremiah, Isaiah, and it was recorded that whatever they say, it was come to pass. Until this day, there's things that come to pass that they have said in the Word. The Ezekiels and these people. But one thing about, we don't praise the prophets, we praise the Word. And we acknowledge the men, but we don't put the prophet on the same level. Like, well, he's the only one, because there were quite a few men of God who were prophets. But why is this man particularly is the one that they always say that has to that he's the messenger of, you know, this is their thing when you go in pledge and say that, you know, or receive the prophet through his almighty merciful Allah and you receive his prophet Muhammad. But there was never no prophets that actually in the Bible that done this, and they worked in great signs and wonders and miracles. I have never, you know, I researched stories about Muhammad, and I never seen anything, signs, wonders, and miracles behind him. I haven't seen it, and that's just a fair assessment to say that. Number two, like I said, two things. It's like at one point he seemed like he was probably a legitimate guy, but something happened to him when he met that being in the cave. And I think it really altered his personality. I believe it was a fallen being. It could have been Lucifer itself, Satan. Or it could have been one of Satan's kingdom that met him. Because when you read his story, it's like they say he was almost out of his mind. When I researched, like when he just come out, he was traumatized. And ever since then, you know, and then the way the other men put allegedly how they put the monarchies their scriptures together, and how it's really an interesting story when you go back and look at it. But yeah, it seemed like ever since then, it's something in that Quran that makes somebody it's some interpretation, and they take it to a max. And I think it's something with the Quran that has some kind of spirit over it, because something is adding up to the point that, you know, maybe with some Muslims they probably look at the Quran, blah blah blah, but it's like, but these certain sectors and groups like Al Qaeda and, you know, Hezbollah and Hamas and all these other people, like, and it's like they really like what is something about that to the point that they're gonna take it to the max. With their, like, I hate to say, with their barbaric tactics when it comes to war and everything. And it's like, man, and then when you see between the two sets, the Sunnis and the Shias, it's like that's a whole different ball game in itself, and I just don't get it in itself. But that's just, but it's they say Muslims, but it's like, okay, that's a different sector of Muslim. Why come they can't get along in the same part of the world? I just don't, because some places you go in some countries and they bomb each other's mosques, whatever. I mean, it's just crazy. That's just the mosque. That's not including whatever Christian church is there. And so, I don't understand the Muslims in that sense, the ones that come from these countries. It's like, what did you expect when you come to the West? You know, I mean, wouldn't, and then, I mean, in a way, you have to deal and assimilate to a society, and why would they go halfway around the world where there are other countries that are beautiful countries that have Islam and they're Islamic and they're beautiful. I mean, you go to Morocco, you can go to Algeria, and there's some places in Asia. I can never figure out why they want to go to a Western country when, you know, you have your fellow other Muslims there that practice the same, believe in the same thing, and worship and everything, and have the same garments to wear as for women. You don't have to worry about you can have your burqas or have your hijabs over there. Why come to the West? You know, I just don't get it. You know, and I think that what the Westerns did along with the Saudis is kind of help out these, they want to do them a favor, is to keep them happy over in their nations. That's my personal opinion, because like if places like France and Britain's telling you something like that, maybe it's a reason, and it's a culture adapted, and it's like it's a mutual thing. I mean, it would make sense to go to, and like like the guy said, it would make sense. It's like you're a Muslim, go to that way ain't nobody got. You don't have to get harassed. You don't have to deal with some laws. That would make sense to go live in a Muslim country. I don't get that. I'm like, I mean, and like I said, not every Muslim country is at war or going through some poverty. There's some beautiful countries over there. Even some similar around, not too far from Russia. I mean, they got temples like Turkestan and Kyrgyzstan and a lot of them other ones over there. They have some beautiful places. But I just, what it's about that they go to countries where like the guy was saying, that they the women are unveiled, and it's a whole different lifestyle as far as eating pork and all the things that the Muslim religion find offensive. It's like, why do you go to the land of the infidels? That don't make no sense. I call it the land of the infidels. I mean, they naked. They got, they don't believe in what you believe. I just don't understand why would they go. It's like, I figure Muslims would go to another Muslim country. Even if it was a situation, if you were your country was at war, like, why didn't they just go to another country? Why are they going to places where they're not really accepted? Then you have to really adapt to that culture, whether it's England, France, or here in Canada or here in America. It's like, why do they just? It doesn't add up. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. Hey, this in Turkey is like a country where it's Christians and Muslims. So, and it's pretty much Western. I mean, close to Westernized. I mean, you probably definitely is a Muslim country, because the flag has a symbol of it, and then you got Jordan. That's next to a Muslim country. I mean, because they're not they're not at a war right now. Of course, the UAE, Saudi, and in places like that. But basically they speak almost the same language. I mean, I know Iran is different. I think Persian is different. But Iraq, of course, Iraq probably wouldn't be a good thing, like Yemen, Iraq, because right now it's war over there. But those countries at war is not war. Being a Muslim will benefit going over to them other countries. Like I said, go to Morocco. I mean, Algeria. Because them where the folks is at. Now as far as the Africans, Muslims, I would say with the Sudanese, the Somalians, some it depends on what other African countries is Muslims. There's some Muslim countries. If you can work out with Mali and them other ones, Senegal, Burkina Faso, they have, and Niger, leases that is similar to you'll find someone similar to your religion over there, in your way of life. I don't know. I'm a person that just always have this. But who wants to be? Because I would rather be in a Western country, because number one, it's my spiritual belief system. Some people, like I said, some Western people, they go to Buddhist and Hindu countries. Thailand, I think, is one of the countries. But it's like, hey, I mean, because you got all the statues, and if it's like in your Hindu country, Hindu countries like India and a few other ones like that, Nepal, and other ones that got the Hindu goddesses. So, but personally, I would, on a spiritual level, I think I would go, if I would visit or go to another country, I would live in a more country where I would deal with the Christian side of it. Simple, that's me. Because with a Muslim country, there's a spiritual principle over there. Every area has its region and have its own principality. So whatever principality you're up under. So that's why I mentioned certain countries. Then you got some countries that don't have any Christian, Muslim, Hindu, or other religions. You could be like North Korea. I mean, a few other countries like that. But anyway, I don't want to. With them, it's certain things, and I know that all Muslims are not like Al Qaeda and Hamas and all these other people, but it's just something about that Quran, man. It's just, and the ones that say that Muhammad is on a higher level, I don't know, man. But I know there's black Muslims and white Muslims, other Muslims that probably come across this, but I just, and then they said mention about Christ, but now the white Christ thing, the image of the Jesus that you see is not really the Jesus. That was a man painted as Caesar Borgia. That's why, and that was painted to take it to the Catholic Church, was behind that, and and they took it to all the other churches around the world. So that's fair, and that's fair enough. But we know that that's not the real Jesus. Yeshua, Yahweh Shai, some people call him, because he was darker. But that's here and there. But it seems like skin complexion is always the thing, even with the fake. I mean, look, some of the other religions, they have the ones that look similar to them. And I guess that's why people feel connected, because what they see, what they worship. I know it's just it's crazy. But I know I'm sticking with the one that he's the resurrection, the afterlife, and that, hey, heal me, and all that stuff. He's the answer, my provider, my defender. And he looks out for me. And his kingdom's around me. That I'm on the right one. That's all I know. Thank you for his name, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ. Now these other people, that's on them. But anyway, I ain't go. All right then, guys. Hope you find this pretty interesting about what's going on in the Muslim religion. With some Muslims. So I don't want nobody to say, no, Muslims. Just the ones that these particular ones. All right then. Take care, be blessed. See you on the next video. Like and subscribe. Till next time. Have a nice night.